Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Transform Your Birth podcast. And I have with me today beautiful Hope, who has a son called Oscar. How old's Oscar, Hope?
He's going to be 2 at the end of the month.
Oh, that's so gorgeous. And he's such a cute little kid. So, Hope, thank you so much for agreeing to share your story. Can you just share with us how you felt when you were pregnant with little Oscar?
So I was obviously very excited to be having my first child, but I was also filled with a sense of fear and dread because I had heard my whole life that birth was painful and just wait until you give birth. This is going to be excruciating. Oh ho ho, you're pregnant. Oh, just you wait. And also in our family, my husband's family is notorious for having large heads. So the story was Oscar will have a large head, so
God.
good luck to you, woman.
Oh dear. Oh wow. There you go. Now, the subconscious is wired to pick up on fears. And it's really interesting how what people say to pregnant women and to women prior to having children, how that can lodge itself into the subconscious. So, feeling nervous, feeling anxious, Hope, what did you decide to do to deal with it? Like what impulse did you have to move beyond the fear into doing something that could potentially help you?
Well, I think naturally I had an instinct to just go for walks and just do things that calm me down. But it
Mm,
was when a colleague of Harry's actually said to do your course
mm,
that I decided to sign up and do the Transform Your Birth course to actually help me get the tools that I needed. And I think that's when everything just changed completely
mm.
for me.
Can you remember because the different people, both in my courses or other similar type birth courses, have turning points where they start to see things a little bit differently, which can then shift things on a subconscious level. So what were the things that you learned in the course that started to change the way you felt?
Interestingly enough, it really was the breathing that helped me just ground myself. And as I said, I was walking a lot, walking every single day to process this journey. And it was during the walking that I practiced the calm breathing.
Right.
And I got a hold of the technique and was able to not be out of breath. And I could just feel myself becoming in control and just being at one with my body. And I just thought, hey, if I can do this just by walking, surely I could do this by birthing.
Mm, wow, that's really interesting. Were there any other teachings that shifted the way you thought and felt about birth?
I think also just understanding the motions of your body and just letting your body do what it needed to do. I think that was very powerful. And also having my husband there to understand the teachings and to know what he had to do to support me so that I could feel his confidence, so the two of us could come together as a team for the birth.
Mm,
That took a weight off my shoulders. It wasn't just me in it by myself anymore. I had this whole team and support network.
yeah. Were you still worried about a big head after that?
Um, it was interesting because it was either that changed my mindset so much, the course and then just doing the practices. But I just became very happy in my last trimester. And I just kept saying, it doesn't matter what happens. I just feel like I'm having a great time and I can just breathe my way through it. So if the head's big, it'll just, so what, let it be.
Mm,
And so I think it really took that worry away. It was just quite amazing, the transformation in my thinking.
mm. Gosh, it's so interesting, isn't it? I often experience watching people go through these changes that the parents that come to me who are the most anxious are often the ones that make the biggest changes. And my theory around that is when you're anxious, when you're fearful of something, that's your subconscious saying to you, do something, do something. This is dangerous. This is threatening my survival. The subconscious is the very primal part of the mind. It's very orientated around survival. And so when you've got a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety, you are very open and very receptive to change. Now, change is an interesting thing to observe. Different things change different people. That's why I'm always curious to know, what were the turning points where you started to see things very, very differently? Because when you start to take on new ways of thinking and new concepts, new understandings, how the system works, what we've got to do to work with birth, not against it, then your subconscious, as a result of the fear, is very receptive to saying, oh, yep, that sounds good. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. And the change can be quite dramatic. And it sounds like that's what you experienced. So as a result, Hope, of change like that, did you find that your pregnancy was a lot different after then?
I would say yes, because whenever there was a moment where I'd feel out of breath, I would immediately turn to calm breathing. And that does happen later in pregnancy. You sort of do feel like you've got this heavy weight. But also, too, I just found that I had been sleeping / meditating myself just in the lead up to, giving birth. But it was after I started listening to the practices that I really went into this deep sense of meditation, calm, and I just felt this warm glow come over me. And it just, afterwards, I would just feel so happy and everything just seemed beautiful. It was just a really awe-inspiring time. Just every time I did a practice and listened to the practices, I just felt changed. It's very hard to put into words. It was just a total feeling.
Yeah, I'm always banging on about doing the practices because I think that's what locks in the teachings, and I think that's what down regulates the stress response, meaning you're less likely to trigger into stress because you've taken your foot off the accelerator. But also the practices help with cultivating that unshakable, undeniable belief that you can do this, which is very powerful because the way you think about birth, the way you think about life is going to influence how you experience it. So it locks in the belief, it down regulates the stress response, and it helps your subconscious to identify what are the things in your subconscious mind that could get in the way of you being able to give birth. So those types of practices, which are based on the hypnotherapy model of change, it can be very, very powerful in changing not just the way you think, but the way you feel and then the way you labour. So let's fast forward now to the birth. Tell us about your birth.
Well, it was quite funny because I was 12 days overdue. And at this stage, you would think that I would be quite panicked, but I was just laughing, going, oh, look, the house is nice and tidy. This is great. I've got plenty of time to relax.
Plenty of nesting time.
Exactly. And then I thought, oh, I better book in the acupuncture because Tracy recommended that if, they were talking of induction, which they were. So I had 2 sessions with Holly from Innate Beings Therapy, one on the day that I was due to be induced. And funnily enough, we were just laughing, saying, oh, well, if I get induced, I feel happy anyway. I've done everything I could. So that afternoon, I went in to be induced, and I was actually 2 centimeters dilated. So they sent me home. We had dinner, sat down with a movie ready to go to bed when I went into natural labor.
Oh, nice.
So it was very, very quick labor as well. So by the time Harry had called the hospital, we had to get going. My mum came, we're on our way there. And I just remember being able to breathe with every single wave that came. And it was just very natural and very calm and sort of surreal. It was like I wasn't there. It was just my body was just doing everything for me. And even at one point, I had to go to the bathroom and it was about time to push, and we were all just laughing, me and the nurses and Harry, because I just kept saying, oh, thank you so much. Oh, this is so funny. And they just turned to me and said, did you do a course or something? And I said, oh, yes, I did. Why? Well, you're very calm. You're very different to the other women we've often seen in here. Oh, okay. Well, I better hop on the bed. We better push. And then at one time, I just turned to my mum and said, oh, I'm a little bit tired. I think I might have a sleep now. And she said, look, you're in labor. There is no time for sleeping. Oh, that's right. I better give birth. It was just this I was so calm. I was ready to just relax and go to bed. And then we ended up, I got into the pushing and he came out and it was beautiful. And right before he came out, the nurse actually said to me, you might feel a slight sting. And then indeed I felt a slight sting. And that was the only pain I felt during the whole birthing process. That was the only thing I felt. So much so that when my baby came out, I saw him and I had this weird moment where I said to the nurse, but I had a small baby. And she said, this is your baby. No, he's too big. Because I had heard with big babies, there's large heads, there's lots of pain, and I didn't feel pain.
Mm.
So that was very interesting for me. And then I was just completely happy in bliss. And the whole labor was 5 hours, and it just felt like it flew past because I felt so in control. Harry had supported me by putting a heat pack on my back, giving me water, taking me to the bathroom. My mum was there holding my hand. It was just beautiful. It was just such a beautiful experience.
Wow. So if you didn't feel pain, what did you feel?
So it just felt like big waves of pressure, and I just get a surge of heat through my face, and I would just feel the need to breathe and just be completely focused until that pressure passed. So that's exactly how I felt it the whole way through. But during even the pushing, I didn't really feel pressure. I just felt like the need to push, like you need to go to the toilet. It just happened. So it was just very interesting. It was a very out of body experience for me personally.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I just felt like my body was just doing what it needed to do. I didn't need to really guide it or be in control. I didn't need to tense my body. Just every wave that came, every contraction, if you'd like to call it, my body just got closer and closer to giving birth. And I just trusted in that. And I could just focus on my breathing and staying calm. I can barely even remember my mum and Harry being in the room.
Were you ever aware of feeling any sort of fear or concern at some point?
There was a brief moment where right before I gave birth, I think that the nurses did say to me that I needed to really push because they might have to get the doctor in. And I think at that point I realized, oh, I need to stop relaxing. I need to get in charge and just push this baby out, which I did. And he came out perfectly. But apart from that, no, like I was literally laughing. We were laughing, and I kept saying thank you to the nurses every time between contractions, and they were laughing too. So it just was a beautiful experience.
You were very polite, weren't you?
That's what they kept saying.
Yeah, wow. Isn't that interesting? It's interesting how you made such a dramatic shift from quite a lot of anxiety and fear about birth to really being able to surrender, which is what birth is. It's that ultimate surrender. Hope, how big was your baby?
So he was 3.9 kilos.
Nearly 4 kilos. And how big was his
Yes,
head?
very big. He was like in the 90th percentile.
Yeah, right. Isn't that interesting? He was obviously in a very good position, which, gosh, that makes a big difference in birth, which means the head can mold much better, which means it can fit through a lot easier. So that was wonderful, and a very efficient first birth. 5 hours is actually very quick. Now, sometimes quick births can be very, very intense for the mother. They're not always what they're cracked up to be, but yours sounded like it just felt that it was doable all the way through. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I could have asked for a better birth. I would not have changed anything. I didn't think that birth could be like that. I didn't believe that it was possible to have a birth like that. It was, yeah, quite incredible. I just hope that when I have more children in the future, that they're all as incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, we know that it's going to be different, but we just don't know in what shape or form that difference is going to play out. So, given that you did have such a dramatic transformation emotionally, mentally, and physically, what do you think were the things that really influenced the way your birth unfolded in the end? What do you think made the biggest difference?
Definitely doing your course and doing the practices, that made a huge difference. I would say also just having that alone time through when I did the walking to just breathe and just feel my body and appreciate my body for what it was and its strength. I think that's where the practices really changed my subconscious to really own that I'm a woman and that I can do this. I think that was just very important during that time. But mainly the practices, I have to say, just that was the highlight of my day, was listening to them, and just the feeling I got during and after the practices was just incredible.
That's amazing. It's amazing to watch that change, isn't it? Hope, given that you were fairly anxious prior to birth, and correct me if I'm wrong, were you a bit concerned about dealing with postnatal depression or anxiety as well?
I was. I
Can you just
definitely
share a bit
was.
about that?
So I've always been someone who has had issues with anxiety and just stress in general and just worrying about things. So I just thought it would be natural that I would fall into that category. I even had a scheduled extra nurses to come see me in the days after birth. I even spent 4 days extra in hospital just in case. But it was the complete opposite. I just felt almost euphoric, so calm and collected after birth. I think there was only one time where I was very, very sleep deprived, that I went into a catatonic sleep, which is where you fall asleep and you actually can't move, but you're awake and you're sort of aware of things. And I actually then used one of the practices and then calm breathed through that to wake myself out of the catatonic sleep. And that was incredible. And so I didn't experience, luckily, any postnatal depression, which I was worried about. It just didn't happen. But I did also continue to use the practices in those early days after birth as well. So maybe that helped.
And so you're nearly you're 2 years in now. Has it come back? Has it raised its head at all?
I would say at times, yes, but I still have remained quite calm. And in general, I'm just loving being a mum. And I actually chose not to return to work because I love it so much. So that really just shows how powerful the whole experience was to make me want to just stay and continue mothering.
So how then do you feel your birth influenced your mothering? I'm always curious about this question because I believe that it, has a huge impact.
I think that it has given me the confidence to trust in myself as a mother, to trust in myself as a person, and to know that I am raising Oscar to be exactly the right person that he is meant to be. And it has also helped with my marriage in terms of just having that partnership. We went through the birth together. We had a child together. We can raise this child together. I just feel like it has really transformed my whole life.
Wow, that inspires me so much. Now you know why I keep doing this work, to watch those changes, because I really believe Mother Nature is wanting us to realize our own magnificence. And culturally, we have a very fear-oriented culture around childbirth. And so women come in with a whole lot of things in their head about birth and the pain and how awful it is and how to bypass it. Yet what she's inviting us to do is to trust ourselves and to realize our own magnificence. And of course, that's what parenting requires of you, is to trust yourself, to attune to your child, to discover that you're far more resilient, far more resourceful than you ever thought. And if we can help women to birth in a powerful way, and a way that activates those prime amount of hormones, and to really bypass, some of the fear in her subconscious, then it can really make a big difference to that journey into parenting, which is really what this is all about. The birth's going to come and go. It's 1 or 2 days out of your life, but the parenting is what's going to live with you for the rest of your life. So what have you learned about yourself then, Hope?
Well, I've learned that I'm strong. And I know that sounds like a funny thing to say, but sometimes I didn't believe it. And I think it was through giving birth and then raising a child, I've just realized I have strength in me that I had no idea existed, and I can get through anything. Um, it's also taught me that there are challenges along the way, but you can just take them in your stride and you can work it out. You can work it through with other people that you trust. There's always going to be a support network around you if you have an open mind and you just reach out.
What would you share with a pregnant woman? What wisdom, what birth wisdom would you give her?
Well, number one, I would say go do Tracy's course.
I didn't prime that, by the way. Thank you for that little plug.
That's
My
definitely
course,
what I would
or
say.
some course that works with the power of the mind, okay? Because that really invites change when you start to look at things subconsciously. What else would you tell her?
I would say enjoy your pregnancy. Don't worry about the future. Just enjoy the now, the feelings of your little baby, of just being just you and your baby as one. And I would actually also say that if someone ever came to me and said, "Oh, you're pregnant," well, I would follow by saying, "Thank you so much, but I'm just going to have my own birth journey and I'll hear your story when I've had my baby."
Where did you work that one out? I like that, because when pregnant women get bombarded with other people's advice and stories. So that's what you'd say, hey?
Yes.
And have you
Yes.
tried it on? How's it work for you?
Oh, I've just been very good at telling people I didn't want to hear their story. Like, I didn't want to hear the stories straight away before
Yeah.
I even heard it. So I was very lucky.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have to say it quite that directly, but I just was like, "Oh, no, I'm going to wait."
I'm going to wait to hear your story after I've had the baby. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm on my own birth journey. I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. One of the things I often do advise women when they're pregnant, and they've got people giving advice or telling them stories, is to say, look, thanks for that. I don't really want to hear your story, because every story is different. But what I am interested in is, what did you learn that helped you? And I think that's what you've done today, Hope, is you've helped us to understand what created your changes. And of course, every woman's different, and what really helped you in the end. And just to summarize, I think Hope's beautiful story is, she, one, identified that she was anxious and she needed to do something about it. She'd been bombarded with stories of big heads and and the pain and just you wait and all of this stuff we kind of dump onto pregnant women. And then through doing the course, you started to realize that there was another way of thinking about this. You started to understand the power of the woman's body to do it. And to be clear about that, what that means is, birth is not something we need to make happen. It is wired into the body. Okay, we don't have to do birth. We just need to allow it to happen. Just like your heart knows how to beat, just like your body knows how to digest its food, your body also knows how to give birth. Okay, so you don't do birth, you let it happen. You allow it to happen. It's the biggest surrender a woman will experience in her own body, is just that letting go and letting it happen. So that seemed to really change things. You locked it in through practicing with your breathing when you were walking, and practicing doing the practices. But I love the way you talked about seeing the practices as something you enjoyed, that they were a treat, that you loved how they made you feel. And that's when change starts to happen. You go from fear to excitement to a sense of, I can do this and I can't wait to meet my baby. And that's a really beautiful internal shift. When you start to feel different, you now know that you're going to labor differently. So that's just fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there anything else you want to say, Hope?
I just want to say thank you to you. If it wasn't for meeting you, I think I would have perhaps had a birth that was completely different, one filled with fear, and I don't think I would have had the beautiful experience. And I don't think I would have continued to parent in the way that I have. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Gorgeous. That's beautiful. That's what keeps me getting out of bed in the morning. And I'm pretty excited with these podcasts because my goal is to change the way we talk about birth, the way we think about birth, and ultimately the way we give birth, to reignite women's confidence in themselves, regardless of what happened. Now, this was a straightforward birth. There was no complexity to Hope's birth, which was very fortunate and wonderful. But the other side of it, she brought in the best physiological version of herself that she could by being really, really calm and really relaxed. And she'd practiced that prior. So I hope that's given all of you something to think about, some great birth wisdom, and and to inspire you to start to believe in yourself as well. Thanks heaps for your story, Hope. It was wonderful. And I'll see you next week for another wonderful, interesting, fascinating story about birth wisdom. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.